have an exciting show lined up for you today because today I'm talking to psychic medium Michael Gourley. Michael, a psychic and a medium, uses his abilities of clairvoyance, sensitivity, clairsentience, and his ability to view auras to help you with your past, current, or future matters regarding your love life, marriage, family, friends, money, career, health, spirituality, and so much more. Okay, so Michael, I'm going to jump right in there, and I know that you've been hailed as the youngest gifted psychic. So when did you realize that you have these abilities, and how did you find your way to the path that you're on now?
Yeah, I was at one time the youngest. I think now that I'm getting older, I don't know if I have that title, but I'm, still in my 30s. What happened is, you don't know you're different until somebody points it out. So my whole entire life, I've been extra sensitive. I was a very sensitive child. I always saw, lights around people, which, it was like a mood ring. It would determine how they would behave, how they were going to act, especially the teachers in school. Like I would notice that their light would change and it would reflect how they were feeling or what they were about to say. So it's like everything for me was kind of overloaded, but I felt that, again, you don't know you're different until somebody points it out. Basically, my mom, she noticed I was a little bit different, definitely was, a different child. And she kind of studied things for herself to know what I was going through. Okay. And then she bought me every, book on the subject. So that's how I kind of, through her, was able to understand myself and also, learn and have that acceptance. So I didn't feel like I was, kind of like the underdog or anything like that.
Sure. Now, I know that you mentioned there that you would see sort of lights and you'd be able to see different colors and lights. Is that to do with the aura reading that you do?
So, it's a glow. We all, animals, plants, human, we all have this bioenergy field that surround us. And, they're different shapes and sizes. And usually what I see is a glow. And a lot of times they are different colors. They can change on a daily basis depending on what we're going through. So over the years, I've been able to detect, exactly what color means what through my own interpretation. So I don't go by like a book that says, this color means this. It's through like my own sessions and things like that I've been able to determine, what the colors mean.
Sure. And can I ask you, what are those different colors and what do they mean to you?
Sure. Yeah. So basically, if, any type of green in the aura, whether it's a dark green to a lime green, it always shows healing. I know that a lot of cultures look at green as a color of luck, and that's what sure. I had always thought, but it's not. Anytime I saw green on somebody, it represented that they were going through some form of healing. And usually where the green is on an aura is where they need healing. So whether it's on their leg, their stomach, or around their head, it usually means, that's a part of their body that they need extra attention.
And is it when you're talking about healing, are you talking about physical healing, like there is an actual pain in there, or is it connected to something a bit more esoteric or a bit more metaphysical?
No, it's sometimes it could be emotional healing. If it's around the head, it could be, sadness. It could be maybe this person's naturally a healer and all their energy is going to helping others heal. But usually when it's around the body, there's something that is going on within them that maybe they are not even aware of. So it could be medical.
That's interesting. Okay, so you've mentioned green and that means healing. What do other colors mean to you?
So orange and peach tones always represent a creative person. I can tell when somebody is speaking if they got all these ideas that they're wanting to get out because their aura will turn peach, orange tone. I see pink as a very nurturing, loving color. I see it on a lot of moms. Someone who gives somebody a hug, their aura turns pink. Red's a very passionate color. I definitely see red on people who are filled with passion. Blue is an overall general great color to have around. So blue is kind of just a general great color. Just it doesn't really mean anything besides leadership, having it together. So blue is just kind of a general color I see on a lot of people.
And then I've got to ask, are there any times when you see an aura, you see a color and you think, okay, that's somebody to be avoided. That's a color that's giving me a couple of warning signs or putting up a couple of red flags for me. Are there any aura colors that say, okay, keep away from that one?
Yes, people tend to ask, do I have a dark aura? Is it all, and it's usually I look for murky tones, such as colors that are muted or grayed out a little bit.
Okay.
And usually it means a person is not, their energy's not vibrating at the proper frequency. So that could, involve a number of things. I pay attention to definitely what I'm feeling when I encounter somebody like that.
Mm-hmm.
And sometimes I do just want to definitely walk away.
And now you also mentioned a little earlier that the aura colors can actually change on a daily basis. Do they change daily? Do they change hourly? Is it something that's constantly shifting?
It's some people they can stay consistent. I mean, I've been at events where people's auras are literally changing as I'm having a reading with them.
Sure.
I look in the mirror and my colors sometimes stay consistent, and then at night it's a whole different color. So it has to interact with my own energy. So I think it can absolutely change on an hourly basis, and it can also stay pretty consistent too, depending on what one's going through.
And what do you do with these auras? When you read these auras and you read these colors, how does that help you in the consultations and the one-to-one sessions that you have with people?
I feel like sometimes we don't always realize what we're carrying around with us. Sometimes, other people have a tendency to point things out. And knowing the aura can give you a better understanding of what you're, kind of going through, whether it's something you have no idea about medically, or maybe it's just, everybody wants to know more about themselves. So on a deeper spiritual level, it can reveal a lot about the personality, where they're going, whether they have the energy to pursue it, and how to go ahead and make that more powerful, how to become more motivated.
Sure. Now, along with these aura reading abilities that you have and this gift that you have, I know that you've also got clairvoyance, clairsentience. Can you tell us a little bit about those? What is clairvoyance? What is clairsentience?
Yeah, so actually, clairvoyance is one of my strongest one. It represents clear seeing. Well, that's what it means, and it's actually nothing is clear about any of the titles. It actually comes in very foggy. But clairvoyance is seeing things. I call them energy imprints. So whether it's spirit, I usually see it as a light, and then sometimes I'll see their face, or energy imprints for the future. I'll start to see certain just kind of visuals and patterns that pop up.
Sure.
So that's clairvoyance. Clairsentience is psychic feeling. So it kind of goes a little hand in hand with being an empath. You can feel other people's emotions. You can feel emotions left behind in a home. You take on other people's emotions and kind of, there's also that knowingness where you just kind of know what's going to happen. That's hard. That one's very hard to explain.
I'm sure with something like that, with clairsentience and being an empath, where you're actually taking on other people's emotions, and having had these abilities from a very young age, that must be something that you must learn to be able to identify as not my emotions. I'm taking on the emotions of somebody else.
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely hard. It's something that I still work on, and I have to, keep up with. It's like, exercising or anything healthy. You want to keep up with it in order to see results. And that's something that I have to focus on.
What are some of the things that you actually do to develop these? What are the different exercises and skills that you go through to be able to develop these gifts that you've got?
We all learned a little bit differently. So some people are very audio. They learn in a sense of listening. Some people are very visual. It's no different in a psychic world. Some of us have extrasensory. So, what happens with that is tuning into what your strong point in, and usually it's how you learn the best. So if it's you're very visual, normally psychically, that's what you're going to be good at developing. I would say for me, kind of just living that lifestyle, it constantly, I'm working with it. And that's just by doing sessions and readings. But I feel like the biggest help that one can do to develop is meditation. And it doesn't have to be fancy. It's just really learning to have more control over the mind frame, to kind of tune in, putting fear to the side, and allowing the truth to come forward so you don't second guess yourself. Meditation helps to develop your visual skills, your sensories. So I would say that.
And that was something when you said now you said it's something that you're constantly experiencing. It was one thing that I considered when you go into an event and when you're doing an event where there's a lot of people in the room. That must be a very intense experience for you because you're obviously receiving and picking up on a lot of different information from a lot of different people. What is that experience like from your perspective, working in a room full of people and doing these events and readings in a room?
It's like walking through a very big crowd and being claustrophobic and also a little bit shy at the same time. You have to hold it together. Sometimes I won't be able to sit still. I'm walking all over. I kind of just go to where I'm pulled. Depending on where I'm pulled, there's always a story that comes through, with that situation and spirit. So, kind of the beginning starts out very nerve-wracking. And then once it gets going, I just go with the flow in terms of how I'm feeling. As the show and the event continues, it gets a little bit easier because I'm so tuned into spirit that everything else kind of just falls into place.
Now, talking about being tuned in, what has been your most intense experience working in this field?
Oh, there's so many. There's so many. Every day is so different. I learned something new every single day. I would say I was caught off guard about 5 years ago. I had a spirit just kind of pop up out of nowhere. And it was different because it wasn't during business hours. It was just in my personal life when I was at home. And it was a gentleman, and he really, really, really was very pushy and in a way that he was trying to get his messages through. And so he stuck around, and I really couldn't get rid of him in a sense for like 5 months. So I was thinking that I wrote everything down because everything that he kept showing me definitely wasn't for me or any of my family members. So I thought it was like, kind of very random if it was somebody who may have lived in the home that I was living in at the time. So I just wrote everything down, and then I got very frustrated because I really wanted to help him. I really, really wanted to get his message out. Through pictures and symbols, he was trying to communicate with his mom. And I just kept saying, can you give me a name or something that I can try to find this person? And I got a first name only. So I wrote everything down. So I had, 10 pages full of information front and back. And after a while, I couldn't put it towards anything. So I said, I'm so sorry. I just don't know what to do with this. I hope that you can find a medium that will be able to help you, but you have to move forward because there's nothing I can do. And I felt awful. And then about a year later, I had a woman come up for a reading, and somebody had bought her a gift certificate. And I was sitting and reading with her, and then all of a sudden he popped up again, and it felt like seeing an old friend. I kind of got nervous because then I was like, oh, great. Now he's going to stick around for another 5 months. But actually I described him, and she said, that's my son. Wow. And so what I did was I paused the read, and I said, can I go get something? And she said, sure. And I ran to a room that I kept, some of my office supplies in. And I had saved all the papers that I had wrote on, and everything on that paper described their situation. And it was her name as well. I can't reveal that, but it was her name. And he basically wanted her, and she was from a whole nother state. So she was from Texas. I'm in Chicago. So it wasn't even, anything that I could. He ended up, I believe, working through the mom's friend to then work through her. Since I couldn't get to her, he pulled her towards me. And I gave her all the papers I had. And he just wanted to tell her a certain secret that he had been holding for a long time. And she confirmed that she had a suspicion as well, but it helped the healing process. So it's something that I always think about. It was such a powerful young man that somehow located me and made it happen.
That is incredible. So it sounds like there's a very active spirit world beyond what we're able to see, that they're busy and they're going about getting things done as well, organizing a friend to get a gift certificate, talking to you at the same time. It sounds like a very busy young man, right?
Yes, absolutely, full of life for sure.
Full of life, I think, is a very good description. Now, I mean, this kind of also leads me to speak to you a little bit about your the episode that you appeared on of the Dead Files. which was I think back in 2005. And there was something very interesting when I was watching that episode in preparation. This was the one that you did, I believe, at the Barbie Hotel in Warsaw, in Indiana, if that's correct.
Yes, it was 2015.
2015, sorry. My research must have been a little bit inaccurate there. But there was something that you mentioned during the episode that you could sense it was a male energy. How do you distinguish between male and female energies?
It's just, it's kind of when it goes back to that, abilities of just a knowing. That one's kind of harder to describe, where you just know, especially if you feel, if like you're in the presence of a lot of masculine energy or feminine energy. It's just something I had felt, and then I just knew. It's so hard to explain.
And I know from the episode as well that you were brought on advice from Amy, one of the hosts of the show, because they were looking for a psychic medium who could intimidate the spirit that was inhabiting the hotel, and then to cleanse it. I mean, what do you do when it comes to intimidating an evil energy? That sounds like something, that you'd see in a Hollywood movie, like intimidate the evil. I mean, how do you go about intimidating an energy like that?
Well, this is an interesting story. That episode didn't air when I was filming. So I went into that not being told anything besides Amy had requested somebody like me to go ahead and, do my thing. And do they think that I could handle it? I had no idea they were looking for somebody who was, I guess, and that could intimidate somebody. Sure. The more I looked at it, I was like, well, maybe I because I have long hair, maybe I look like I could. To me, I'm a very sensitive person. So the only thing I could figure out is maybe she sensed that I don't back down when it comes to situations. I don't succumb to that kind of fear in the real world, maybe, but not in the spiritual world. Sure. So that whole situation, I went into it absolutely knowing nothing. So a lot of times, that show in itself is very, very, very real. Yeah. I had brought in my spirit guides, which I believe we all have, and I really connect with my tribe in a sense of I ask all my ancestors and my the divine, and I kind of pull in backup to just kind of surround me and help me. But I always, always, always respect the ghost that is still behind, because what may seem like an evil entity may just be an imperfected, just like humans are imperfected. It just may be somebody who's just really messed up and they haven't been perfected yet. And we're sensing all this craziness. Well, I mean, it really was an evil entity. I went in there and I did a clearing, and I tried to kind of talk to this individual. And a lot of crazy things had happened that didn't make it on the film because all the equipment had just shut off and broke down. My microphone exploded. So it was so many crazy experiences all within, 8 hours of filming. It was a long day of filming for the short period of time that I was on there. And I mean, when you say that it was, it's an evil energy or an energy that might have just been like misunderstood or maybe frustrated at their, the past or the next life experience that they're having, does true evil exist? Is there energy out there that is just purely evil? I believe there's a duality with everything, the yin and yang in life. I've never met or felt or sensed a devil in terms of what we're taught as like an evil dinosaur creature that runs a pit of fire. I've never ever felt anything like that, but I do feel that we can go to a very dark place and do a lot of damage, and if we're not perfected, when we cross over, we even that's temporary. We're still kind of creating our own dark place, but to learn from it. So there is evil in this world. And there's just, they may not become perfected in time by the time they cross over, but even that's a temporary. So I don't feel that it's, I think it's more of the movies that make it, kind of sensationalized. Yes. Yeah. And when it comes to, I mean, you, like you say, you're dealing with these different energies, these negative energies. What is it that you do to prepare yourself for that type of an experience? Is there something that you do to protect yourself? Yes, I've noticed that if you you have to believe in something for it to work. Just like if you're a doctor and you don't believe in yourself, or a surgeon, and you tell your client they're going to run out of the room, they're not, nobody wants to hear they're not the best doctor in the world. So, I mean, you really have to pump yourself up, and it sounds conceited and ego related, but it's really not. You have to have that self-confidence. And I try to build myself up, and I think it and I create it in a sense of I surround myself with a bright light, like mentally, and that kind of is my shield of protection. I call in my tribe of spirit guides, and I keep things on me that are meaningful, things that I feel protect me. They may not protect the average, so somebody else could carry a crystal that they feel is protective, and it will protect them. Somebody could carry a cross, somebody could carry a penny. It just depends on their association with how they feel, because feelings create thought forms that create reality.
And now you said there that, you often have to walk in with a lot of confidence, the same way that a doctor has to have confidence in their ability. You've got to kind of pump yourself up. And anybody who hops online and types in your name, I don't think you'd have to pump yourself up too much, Michael. There's a lot of very, very positive information out there about you. And again, just going back to the fact that you were invited into the America's Best Psychics as the youngest psychic ever tested. I think that was back in 2005. I think I got my dates mixed up. What was that experience like? What was involved in the testing?
That was a time in my life where definitely I was so ready, and I was wanting to, be able to, use my abilities every single day. I had to go through some testing and things like that. I walked in there and I was totally afraid. I was so scared, and I felt like, I was going to just mess everything up. But when I shook the person's hand who ran the establishment, I said, "Hi, my name's Michael Gourley. I'm a psychic medium, and I'm very good at what I do." Yeah. I still laugh at that because, I was so scared and I was so frightened, but that just came out, and they all started laughing, saying, "Oh, he's confident. We like that." Yeah. But it was really because I was so young and afraid that they wouldn't take me seriously. Sure. Going through the testing process, I had to read for, five, I think it was 5 different people. I had to do a phone session. I had to read for 2 males and 3 females. And they took on kind of the review process to see how accurate I was. Some asked questions, some didn't. Some wanted a medium reading. Some just wanted a psychic reading. Mm-hmm. And through that, they established I was the real deal.
Wow, that's incredible. So, when it comes to the actual testing, how do they assess it? Are you given a result at the end? Did you get like an 80%, a 90%, an A on your paper? What is it that they do to assess it?
Well, they definitely, what I was told, because then I became, very close with the woman who had, ran the establishment. They were actually, they look first for fraud. That's the number one thing that they try to detect. And then they want to see if what I say is applies, if it really clicks with the person that I'm reading for, if it really makes a difference, or if I'm just saying a bunch of things that doesn't really fit, So I don't know if they actually scored me on a percentage, but they said that I did good. I passed, and I was able to. You're given the green light. Yeah, I was given the green light, and I got to work among some of the most wonderful psychic mediums I had ever met. They were such a great generation of psychics, and I just watched them, and they were all so different. So it just gave me inspiration that I could just kind of not have to follow a rule book. I just be me.
Yeah, and you mentioned there that that one of the things that they're checking for is that you're not a fraud, that you're not what I've now come to dub as a fake chick, somebody who's not a psychic but a fake chick. When it comes to actually being the real deal and being gifted yourself, is it easy for you to be able to identify a fraud, somebody who's saying that they have these abilities, and you're able to say like those might not be, you might not be completely honest, there might be a bit of fraud going on there?
If I look at one's aura, if somebody's telling me a story of their experience, then yes, there's key factors that are definitely not within the scope of this type of industry. But things like this can go undetected. I've seen police officers get scammed. I mean, the ones that, you would think would never are on top of stuff like this, but it happens. Unfortunately, we're all, prone and vulnerable. Some of the main things I tell everybody to look out for is that we're not, we don't have magic powers. So if you're seeing a psychic and they say, oh, well, your life's falling apart, you have a curse on you, or you have, basically trying to control you with money by saying, hey, give me this amount of money and I will do special work for you through magic or candles or praying, and I will lift this. That is not what a psychic medium does. It's not. I mean, we don't have magical powers. It's just a sensory. So the price should always stay the same from beginning. They shouldn't try to upsell you.
Yeah.
And also they should be out there, I would say. They should definitely have a presence.
Almost like a track record. Like, it's not the first time they're popping up. It's not just pop up and disappear type of thing.
Correct.
Yeah.
Correct. Because if they're using like a very simple fake name and they're on a busy road, sometimes it's kind of like they're relying on traffic from the street to just pop in.
Okay. So it's almost like they're targeting victims. They're going out and looking for people who they think, okay, I could probably get a bit of money out of that one. Oh yeah.
And it's really sad because they don't stop until they're completely drained of everything.
Yeah,
so I'm really passionate about that. Like I mean, I take that very, very, like I've helped others try to regain that back, but there's only so much I can do because then they just disappear. They move. So it's something because it's my career. I just, there's so many talented psychic mediums out there. That's not what we do.
Sure. And I'm sure in your line of work as well, you must encounter a lot of skeptics, people who approach, you with a lot of caution and a lot of skepticism. What do you do when you're dealing with skeptics? I mean, do you ever get skeptics at your events? People who are there to maybe along with the wife who truly believes and the husband's a bit skeptical. How do you deal with skeptics?
Yeah, it's really hard because like I said, I'm very sensitive. So I want to please everybody. It's what you make of it. Sometimes the smallest signs are the biggest signs. I really, really, really don't want to convert anybody. I really don't want to change anybody's beliefs. I think if it's meant to be, it'll happen. It'll happen in a way that somebody has a wonderful connection. But there's sometimes where I don't get, I may not be connected with somebody, but always be honest and say, I don't have a connection with you. It's not your fault. Who knows? Sometimes this happens. But during skeptics, I feel like it's more of, sometimes they want to believe and they'll find every reason not to believe. And that's okay with me too, because I know this is not for everybody. I just, when I'm put in that scenario, that those defenses go up spiritually and I get really, really blocked. I feel really blocked.
Okay. So it's almost like the person who is the skeptic is kind of putting up the walls and putting up like a spiritual block that you're not able to continue working and reading for them.
Yeah, sometimes. I mean, like I said, some of them feel like they really want to believe, but they just need scientific proof, which unfortunately, I mean, that's not how we're able to, there's not really a certain test that can truly determine this. So I understand, like I could see if I wasn't born this way, I would hope that I would have an open mind, but I also don't know if I would. I mean, I would like to hope that I would, but I mean, these are kind of different claims to have.
Yeah. And I'm so glad you brought up that phrase. I'm so glad you said that phrase, I was born this way, because it reminds me of that great Lady Gaga song, Baby, I Was Born That Way, which leads me to my question. Is it possible for somebody to develop a psychic gift, or is it something that you're just naturally born with? Is there hope for the non-gifted to develop some sort of intuition or some sort of skills in empath or as a psychic medium? Or is it just simply a gift that you're born with?
Both. Like we can develop different sensories of psychic ability. I believe we all have the capability of being a medium at heart. Some of us, we just may not. We just second guessing ourselves is really the biggest thing that creates that non-believing, because we think it's our imagination. But usually, like somebody who's born good at math, they're just they don't have to tests come easy for them. They can calculate. Some people have to work twice as hard as that just to get a C. I think that some of us are just born, with different abilities that catch on. And I feel this is one of them, but anybody can tap into it. It just depends on how far they take it and how much they accept their own abilities.
If you don't mind me giving you a little personal anecdote, I went for a tarot card reading. This is many years ago at this stage. I went for a tarot card reading, and the lady who was doing the reading for me, as I was selecting the different cards, she kind of looked over to me and she said to me that I have a great power and that I should actually be doing this reading for her. And it was something I'd never really considered of. It's something I'd never really thought about doing or ever really recognized as a gift that I had. And I've done nothing with the information that she's given me. So in your opinion, what advice would you give to me if I was to start looking at developing these skills that this lady has said that I've got? What should I do?
Well, I think that you're already incredibly in tune with other people. You definitely can put yourself in other people's shoes and almost kind of know what would be, humble and good work. So it's like you definitely are going to, I feel, be very, very good and kind of make a strong name for yourself. But if you tap into that sensory, it's located in your stomach, to the feeling sensory where you just feel other people's emotion. It's kind of located right above the belly button. When you meditate, picture a funnel, opening up there, and don't be afraid. Just kind of like picture a good, like a positive light opening and going through your stomach, and really pick up on what you're sensing in any situation and try to write it down, because that will help you to remember what you're picking up on. And then one day you might start hearing things, or I've never been able to hear things, but from what I've been told, it's like a static, or it's like a radio frequency being kind of tuned in. It starts off like that, and then people start hearing, spirit
voices coming through.
Yeah.
Interesting. But speaking of predictions, actually, what the question that comes to mind is about these great prophecies by people like Nostradamus or Baba Gaga. Their prophecies are often very doom and gloom, often about like big world wars and huge big, natural disasters and things like that. Why do you think it is that these prophecies are always so doom and gloom? Why do you think that they've always got such a big kind of shock factor to them?
Because I think that's really like what gets people's attention. I mean, like disasters are inevitable. I mean, they're always going to be. They're always going to be there. We live in an imperfect world. Yeah. Imperfect things happen. I always meditate on what I can help with. So for me, it's like if I see horrible things, I can't help with that. So it would drive me crazy and I would shut down. So I try to see like the good in what I'm able to help with. But I feel that a lot of people, that's an intense emotion to see doom and gloom. And when you look for it, you'll find it. If you look for the good, you'll find that too. It just depends on what you're looking for. Okay.
And now going back again just to those live events that you do, and we spoke a bit about that experience from your perspective, and that it can be quite an overwhelming experience for you. Was there any event that you did that really stands out in your memory for some reason, that you were doing a reading in a room or a reading with a group? Yes. So is there an event that stands out for any reason, good or bad, or something that happened that was very unexpected in an event?
So at my events, there was actually a few situations where, for an example, I was pulled towards this younger lady, and I feel, it was kind of really meant to be that I was pulled towards her because she really needed a spirit to come through for her, and spirit did come through for her. But it was so strange because the spirit kept showing me a literal star over and over and over and over and over. And I didn't say anything because what do you make out of a star? I mean, it's not even a message. So by the time I walked away, I decided, okay, I'm still seeing the star, so I can't move on. I said, this person at this time, I go, he keeps sending me a star, and I feel like I just have to give that to you so I can move forward. And she pulled out a star that was in her pocket. Wow. That even the person was with her, a family member, didn't even know that she had got before the event. Okay. And it was connected to the spirit who had crossed over. It was a star pendant, but she kept it in her pocket.
Wow.
So it's like things like that are, when you're not really looking for it, it just kind of happens. If I'm asking spirit for something big, I may or may not get it. It's when I kind of don't expect it that it ends up really, really big like that.
And now you also said there that it was something that the spirit kept showing to you again and again and again, and you literally couldn't move on from it. I mean, is that something that happens often, that you get the spirit that's coming back and giving you the same message, or one spirit that you find comes and communicates with you on a regular basis, even though you're not necessarily seeking them out?
Yes. So if I don't understand something, or if, let's say, I'm misinterpreting a visual, because it's a bit like charades, they'll keep repeating until, I eventually get it, or, they'll send me something else after that visual and they won't let it go. So that's why sometimes I'm like, okay, don't make sense out of this right now, but this is what I'm getting. They won't let me, they just keep throwing it at me over and over and over. So when I try to communicate or move forward, it's almost as if like I'm just stuck getting the same types of visuals. So that's how I kind of, it's almost like a different language. That when that happens, I know that I got to kind of get it together and focus a little bit harder, because I'm not getting something that they're trying to make me get.
And then as a psychic, I mean, do you find ever in life that people are a little bit wary when they find out about your talent, that they think, okay, you're going to look into their dark inner world, their dark inner secrets, you're going to know things about them that they don't want other people to know? Have you ever experienced that, where your gifts and your abilities are actually a little bit unnerving for some people?
Oh yeah, yes, for sure. Not everybody, but yeah, I mean, it's very common for people to sit down with me and they say, "Oh, I'm so sorry. I'm so nervous."
Yeah.
I tell them it's so normal. You don't know what to expect.
Sure.
I tell them right away. I don't predict your death date. I don't. I see things that I can help with, hopefully just to kind of calm them, because sometimes people, their biggest fear is I'm going to say something that they're, like very, very negative. And I try to put them, at ease with that. But I'm definitely not a mind reader. I think a lot of times people may assume that psychics can read minds. I mean, sometimes we can feel what you're feeling. We can understand the thought process.
Yeah.
But we don't know, like, I don't, know everything that one's thinking or anything like that.
Sure. And are there things during a reading that you might receive a message for, but you decide not to pass that message on? I've heard before that, like you might see a vision of a person that they're going to meet in the future that they're going to love, but there's a risk to telling them about that. Are there any things that you receive a message and you decide, okay, this is not something that I should be sharing?
For me, it's hard to put that judgment out there, because if I am seeing it, I feel like I'm seeing it for a reason.
Okay.
If I feel the person can't handle it, like literally may not be able to handle it, good or bad, maybe they take it and they change their life course because of it, and that's not what's meant to be. I'll try to find a different way to help them, and I may not, reveal the entirety of the vision, but I feel like it's also kind of my job to kind of just tell everybody what I see and feel. So I try not to hold back. I try not to judge too much, but I've had that happen. Like maybe somebody wasn't ready to hear that, but I would have to say it in a different way that would, kind of make sense to them so they could fulfill something in their life.
And when it comes to doing readings, I mean, you mentioned a little bit at the beginning of our conversation that you're able to like see your aura in the reflection of the mirror. Do you do readings for yourself, or is that something that you go to somebody else for?
No, so I've never had a reading before, which is, it's very, I've been asked that question before. I've never had a psychic reading or, like a medium reading or anything like that.
Okay.
For me, it's so hard to be psychic about ourselves.
Okay.
So that's, for spirit, for me, I've lost so many loved ones, and for me, I have to get messages from them. Otherwise, I feel like I'm not inspired, and then I get I feel more powerful when I feel inspired through my loved ones on the other side. It just helps me. But on a psychic level, I feel like if I had all the answers, I would never make any bad decisions and I would never learn anything. So I think that's why it's hard to be psychic about ourselves.
And I think maybe you could get every winning lottery ticket and you'd be sitting in the lap of luxury right now, yeah?
I've never tried, but there's a common, people do ask that question, how, why don't, or, you get the numbers to the lottery. And actually there are a lot of psychics who have won the lottery.
Really?
There was a group of women in England that I had read about that, they predicted that they were going to win the lottery, and they did.
Wow.
And they donated the majority of it for a good cause.
Okay.
But it does happen. It does happen.
Now, it's something that you mentioned there as well that I just want to go back to. And forgive me if it's a slightly insensitive question, but you said that you really thrive in receiving messages from your loved ones who have passed over. The question is then, do you view death differently to the way that maybe I would view death as a more of a loss? Because you get to stay in contact with these people once they've passed over.
Right. I'm not afraid to die. I just want to make sure I reach that level before I get there. I didn't always feel that way. I feel like everything that I had been through helped me to get to that point of not fearing and just being able to know that there's purpose. I don't know what I'm going to do by that, because when we get to the other side, we have also other purposes on the other side. We don't kind of just float around, but I don't know what I'm going to do on the other side, because what I'm good at, like, what am I going to, like, I communicate with spirit, but once I get to the other side, what am I going to do?
Sure.
My talents are not really useful over there. So maybe I'll communicate with humanity. Who knows? But I feel that it's just a transition. It's like boiling water. It looks like the water vanishes or disappears. It just changes form. Okay. So, to me, it's just a transition. I don't want anybody to be afraid of that next chapter in their life, because it's so amazing and it's so beautiful. It's worse on the ones that are in this dimension still alive than it is for the ones that cross over.
Sure. And I mean, going back again just to that anecdote that you told us about the message that kept coming through for months and months on end before you found the lady who received the gift certificate. It sounds like you say, it's a very busy afterlife. There's a lot going on the other side. And you mentioned now that there are specific roles. I mean, what are some of the roles in the afterlife? What are some of the roles in the next dimension? What are people getting up to on that side?
Yeah, it's hard to wrap our minds around, but they've shown me that they could be in so many different places all at once. So it's like if I were to be in Chicago, California, Europe, all over the place and still live in the moment, that's what it's like for them. So they have different roles. They have work, not the kind of work that we think of as work, but it's more of a purpose. Okay. Yes, so yes.
They're not going into a 9 to 5 and clocking in, right?
right. Nothing like that. But I've seen where they are. I've seen spirit where it's like they're on a constant vacation. I've seen it where they are very, 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 very busy and they're connected to the other side, and also random people on Earth that they feel like maybe they could help. There's times where people feel like, oh man, I really feel like I had an angel looking out for me. Sometimes it's just a random spirit that felt they were around and they could help at that very moment in time.
Okay, that's interesting. So it's possible to receive guidance and help from a spirit that's crossed over that might not necessarily have been connected to you in this world, in this life?
Yes.
Okay.
It absolutely. If you get a gut feeling that, let's say, somebody, you lost a father or, somebody else, and you have a feeling that that was them, then most likely it was, because it's the first feeling that's the most accurate. But sometimes we don't always, there's just people who haven't really lost anybody like in their inner circle, and they wouldn't know. They feel this is like there was an angel following them, or there was something around. In those cases, absolutely, there was definitely somebody there to assist.
And would that person or that spirit, that energy, would that then be considered one of your spirit guides?
No, yes and no. I mean, I don't know it all. I feel like at the end of the day, from what I've figured out, that our spirit guides are just our spirit guides. They don't change or just be, but if they're guiding us, I kind of feel like it's they are giving us spiritual guidance. So in a way, you could call them a spirit guide.
And a spirit guide, is that a spirit or a soul that has been sort of assigned to you? That's kind of like you say, their role in the after. Like you're going to take care of that one. You're going to be guiding this guy over here. Do your spirit guides stick with you for your life? Are they always present? Are they always there?
Yes, they've lived before. Will be spirit guides for somebody else one day. Usually it's, what they have experience with that kind of helps keep us on track. Even if we've never acknowledged them, they're still there. And sometimes we get information that kind of comes across as our own, thoughts or whatnot. But yeah, our spirit guides, everybody has them. Sometimes it's, 3, 5, 6. I mean, we could have a whole group. And there's times where, there's some spirit guides that don't really reveal themselves. So there's some spirit guides that choose to be, kind of in the corner a little bit. They don't necessarily want to be known, or maybe they're shy, but they'll give you all this information. It's so different.
And then, so would you say that feeling of intuition that we all feel like we have when we walk into a room and you pick up on an energy, or you pick up on something like I shouldn't be here, or there's something negative happening here, would you say that would be a spirit guide communicating with you, where you just kind of get a sense of feeling that you should choose one thing over the other, or go in a different direction, or leave the room? Or could that be a communication from a spirit guide?
Yes. Also, your spirit guides will give you all different types of alerts, especially if you're if you're really in tune with them. But they also help you to be in tune. So sometimes you're picking up on what you're meant to know, and they're there, or they were previously there to help you become more in tune, to sense something, like if you're not meant to be in a certain environment.
Okay, great. So if we've got some listeners out there who want to get in touch with you, want maybe a private reading or to attend one of your events, how can they go about contacting you?
The easiest way is through email or through my website, www.psychicmediummichael.com. So I do have an online scheduler on my website where you can kind of pick a date that would work for you, or days that I am free. If people have questions, emailing is easier than getting a phone call. So, emailing straight to my website will go to my assistant and they'll get back to you.
Okay, perfect. And is it okay for people to reach out directly and have the readings done on Skype? Do you do them online, or do they have to be done in person?
No, so energy is actually accessible everywhere. So I've done readings for people that are far away, and it's just as accurate. It's just as strong of a connection. So you can be here in person with me. I do phone sessions. I do readings over Skype. Also, I wanted to say that to find out about my events coming up, to check out my website and also my Facebook page. That's where I keep everybody posted.
Okay, great. Well, we'll be putting all of those links to your website, links to your Facebook page. We'll be putting all those links in the show notes for the listeners to go and take a look at. So obviously take a look in the show notes and reach out to Michael directly if you're interested in having a private reading. This hour has been nothing short of very interesting and very fascinating. And I think I could keep you here for many more hours asking you many, many more questions. And I hope that I get to invite you back sometime in the future.
Yes, I was going to say, please have me again. I would absolutely love to talk with you more.
Absolutely. And we'll be in touch again soon, Michael. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much. Take care.
It was an absolute pleasure to speak to you, Michael, and it's always interesting hearing from people who get to glimpse the other side. If you enjoyed today's episode, you can do us a huge favor, and you can tell all your friends and family about us and send them the link so that they can listen to the Xander and Stone podcast too. Of course, we would love to hear from you. If you would like to drop us a line, you can email us at xanderstonepodcast@gmail.com, or reach out to us on Instagram at XanderStonePodcast, or find us on Twitter at XanderStone10. That's Xander with an X, I'll spell it for you, XanderStonepodcast. Like us, subscribe to us, and if you feel like dropping a bit of feedback on one of those review pages, you go ahead and do that. Till next time.